Eliminate the useless. And this is your ability to really be honest with yourself and cut the shit out of your life that adds no value. Hi everyone, Rob, Kropp and Dan Stones here from Pravar Group, and welcome back to another episode of The Trade Den. Good to have you back, Dan. How are you?
Good to be back. Always good. And today especially, this is a bugbear topic of mine, and I'm pumped to get stuck into this one.
I thought you were going to say I've been busy.
No. If I say busy, the mails will flood in. The guys will be all over me. I pick them up on this all the time. So if they hear me say busy on group calls, they always pick me up on it because I've done it to them 100 times.
There's going to be a belter today because what we're really doing is getting you to explore your relationship with time. And it's one of the biggest things that we see in coaching is for most people, time is one of their biggest problems. And unfortunately, they've got an adversarial relationship with time, a negative relationship with time. They want more of it. They wish they had more hours in the day. They wish they could manage time better. And when you do ask them how they're going, they're busy as hell and they wear it like a badge of honor. And so we know you got into business to be able to have more time, more freedom with people that you love the most. But unfortunately, you probably find yourself in that position where you don't have the time and you're working longer and harder than you ever have before for less money, might add. And so today we really want to pull apart this whole conversation around busyness and let's see where we can take it. Where do we start, Dan? Like, what's your thoughts around this notion of busyness?
I think for me, you're right where you started with time, and it's all around this idea I don't have enough time. For some reason, though, it then morphs into this thing about I wear busyness as a badge of honor, and exhaustion becomes some sort of status symbol. The more exhausted you are, and for me, I think the mindset element sitting behind this is at some point I'll have done enough. I'll be exhausted enough. I'll be tired enough. I'll have done enough that it becomes almost a strategy. Being busy isn't a strategy. If you're always busy but you're never moving forward, something's wrong. Like it doesn't work that way. There's never going to be enough exhaustion that you can heap on yourself where someone's going to come across, put a thing around your neck and go, hey, guess what? You've exhausted yourself to the point that we're now going to grant you this next level of business, this next job, this next what it is. It's not about that. So I think starting from that place that busyness isn't busy isn't a business strategy, it's not valid. You've got to get that out of your agenda. And this whole episode is going to be around trying to blow that up and trying to get you to shift your focus and never look at busyness the same way. It's a lofty call, but that's what has to happen.
Yeah, it's also respecting the thing that is time and understanding that it's time is your most valuable asset. And if you can't get more of it, time manages itself. And if you don't protect it and value it, then no one else will. And so that's why we always keep coming back to time in this podcast, in coaching, because if you learn, like you said at the start, it's being busy isn't a flex, it's a prioritizational thing. And so if you don't learn how to prioritize what matters most in the time that you've got, you're never going to achieve what you ultimately want to achieve in business and life. And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we say, you call it the treadmill, the hamster wheel, whatever it is. That's that whole thing about being busy with. It doesn't come with any forward progress. It's just going round and round in circles, running fast and getting nowhere. So for me, I think that's probably a good opening for us. But let's talk in a bit more depth now and focus on this idea about hard work and what we're saying here, because it's important, I think, that hard work alone doesn't create success. And it's important for us to just at least acknowledge that. And maybe there's so many clients I can think of, you've probably got a couple as well, but hard work's still important. We're not saying don't work hard here. It's not about that, but it's not the thing that's going to get you over the line.
Correct. I think when you look at any great sports star, whether it's an Olympic athlete, a swimmer, a basketball player, a football player, someone like I used to follow it a hell of a lot more when I was younger, but NRL, for example, I love Jonathan Thurston. He was a cracking NRL player. And you hear stories of guys like that who turn up and train kicking before they even train. And so you think of an Olympic swimmer, they train and their ass off to get to the top. And it's no difference in business. Business is your profession. it's the equivalent of your sport. So if you want to run a great business, you have to work hard. There's no denying that. But working longer on harder on the wrong thing is not what's going to contribute to the success of your business. And that's why sometimes you see a business owner doing 60 to 80 hours a week stuck at $1 million. You can see someone doing $5 to $6 million working a 30 to 40 hour week. So time does not always equal more money or more success in business.
No, and I think this idea of the strategy of being busy or wearing exhaustion like a trophy that gets you through to the next level, we see this a lot. I mean, we spoke recently to Jack Whiting, and I think there's elements of this in his story. He maybe didn't wear it as a badge of honor to that extent, but definitely this idea of busyness was a big part of his strategy early days.
Yeah, it was. And I think you've got to work. You've got to bust your ass getting a business out of the ground. There's no denying that. You've got to work long. You've got to work hard. You've got to prove your service. Jack spoke a lot about that in that recent podcast. So if you haven't listened to it, go back and check it out. But he had to work big days to prove himself to his new customers and get jobs across the line and build his team. But there gets to a point in business where you've got to shift your attention from working big long hours to embracing the power of leverage. And that's something Jack had to do, where he had to realize that me putting more hours on the tools is not going to get this business moving forward. I've got to stop thinking like a tradesman. I've got to start thinking like a business and focus on business building activities. And that's what's going to grow this business. And that was a huge realization that he had, and he had to learn to embrace the power of leverage and the power of team and the power of systems, and that's what helped him turn the corner.
Yeah, I remember when we started, or when I started at Pravar, and we probably had a different age group of clients, and you'd see these guys come in absolutely busted. They're a bit older, but they'd been doing this, living this busy life. I'm flat out. I'm not going anywhere. And you could see the exhaustion on their faces. Some of them wore it as a badge of honor. It was like, now I'm ready. But most guys were just flat out exhausted. I think now, and Jack's an example of this at the other end of the scale, where young guys do this, and we see what they do, though, is rather than adjust their lifestyle to do this, they'll still choose the busyness route. They'll still be, even though they've got to go to the office, they're getting up to go to the office at 5 a.m. or something. And you're like, why are you doing that? And there's never really a good answer other than, well, I've always done it and better to be busy than not. I had a client actually tell me that once. I nearly jumped down the phone at him. But anyway, but that idea I think is really important, that we acknowledge that they have to make a shift one way or the other. You can't stay in the same spot, because it starts to hurt. All those hours do add up, and you've seen this firsthand. Fractured relationships, for instance, businesses that get stuck. You see it all the time.
Yeah, correct. And I think with Jack's story, when he is young, and we see this a lot when guys have young families, that's a moment where they go, something's got to change, because I can't keep going down this route. And for Jack, it was the same thing. He wanted to make change because family was on the way. Some guys see it as it's on the way, or they're really experiencing with a young family. And for Jack, he had to have that realization that getting up, spending a whole day on the tools, going home, having a feed, and spending nights in front of the computer and on weekends, it's not sustainable. And it gets to the point where you actually don't grow. And for Jack, he had that realization. And for him, he had to realize that he had to build out his team, so that he started transitioning off the tools day by day. He won a bit more work, put someone on, clawed more time back off the tools. Won a bit more work, build out his ground crew that little bit more, transitioned off. So it wasn't an immediate jump off the tools and I'm going to grow this business. It was a transition off over a period of time. And he went from 5 days to 4 days to 3 days to 2 to 1, and then only filling in around the gaps. And for him, that was a 12 to 18 month journey. So it takes time. But what he did is he transitioned his role in the business, embraced the power of leverage within his ground crew, and got those dynamics right. Every time he bought an hour back, he then went and focused on driving more sales and building out his crew. And it got to the point where all the things that he was doing at night, now he started doing during the day. And that's how he fixed this busyness problem. He didn't get more hours in the day. He just learnt to prioritize what mattered during the day, and that's what changed. That's what changed his world for him.
Yeah, we've used the word change a lot there, and I'm really keen that today we break down what we mean by change. What were the changes? So for someone who's listening with this, as I said to you, it's a pretty sneaky thing, this idea about busyness and how you get to a point where you're worshipping it or you're using it as a badge of honor. So, Rob, I think you've done a great job with Jack there, opening up where he was and some of the changes he's made. But let's go full circle on it and just recap. Where's he at now, and what's that shift in terms of using, let's call it busyness as his sort of primary strategy, the working hard and as hard as it needs to be. What's it led to now? Now that he's made that shift, some of those changes, which we'll explore in a minute, where's he at now?
For him, it started with the mindset shift, the shifting from a tradie to a business owner level of thinking. Instead of working hard on the tools, he now embraces the power of leverage. He's got admin, he's got bookkeeping, he's got someone who's stepping into his junior estimator role, he's got someone who's stepping into a project manager role with 10 in the business. And instead of working nights and on weekends, now he's a present dad to Tex and his new 9-week-old daughter. And he's there on weekends and spending plenty of time with family. And Danielle, his wife, he's supporting her with having maternity leave and all those types of things. So his business has multiplied in team size and in revenue, but he's actually slashed his hours. So he's actually achieving more in less time, and he's less stressed and less busier. And that's because he's embraced the power of leverage and embraced the power of prioritization of the things that matter, which are going to move the business forward in the time that he's got.
I like that. Such a good example. Prioritization and the leverage component. The leverage is the structure, obviously, when we talk about this. Let's go back then to the mindset element and really break this down, because I think that's where we need to dive in. For someone that's wrestling with this at the moment, if you're a self-confessed badge of honor warrior for busyness, then listen in, because this is where we're going to break this down. And let's talk about not so much just what has to change, but how do you make that change? And the first one for me is becoming outcome focused, not just effort focused. So on that sort of sense, most business owners track how hard they're working instead of how effective they're being. If someone says to me, I'm busy, you guarantee I'll ask you, is it productive busy or is it just busy?
You're busy doing what?
Yeah, anyone could be busy. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't do anything. Like I could be jogging on the spot doing nothing and say that I'm busy. So really being focused on what are you trying to get to? Where are you going to? What's the outcome of this next meeting? What's the outcome of the next hour I'm going to spend of my day? What's that about? If you can start to focus on that, then you're going to start to get some momentum moving forward rather than being on that treadmill that we spoke about at the start. And this doesn't mean how much can you get done. It really means, are you doing things that matter? And you like to talk about this, prioritizing work that actually moves the needle. It's actually the second part of this fix. If you can start having outcomes in line and you start moving towards an outcome, the next step is prioritizing work that moves the needle.
Yeah. Are you actually strategically working on things that matter? Are you actually prioritizing the things that are going to help you move forward? In coaching, we get in their second phase of coaching and leverage, we get clients to do a time tracker, a simple time tracker, and that's a great tool where it helps them track their time to help them realize A, how many hours are they actually doing in a week, and B, where is their time actually going? And it's that real awareness to be able to go, holy shit, I'm spending it on this, and this, but what's that actually doing for me, and where is this taking my business? And then once you have that realization, when it sits in you on a pie graph in front of you going, you spend most of your week doing the unimportant things that doesn't move the business forward and doesn't create change or make improvements, then that first is the realization. Then you've got the ability to then reprioritize things in your world to be able to go, well, if I work on this, then I will create that. And so the time tracker is a simple tool that you can do to A, have the realization, and B, shift the priorities for you to be able to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and let's be clear, shifting that priority, for most people, the priority is I just need to be busy. That's their priority. There's nothing else but being busy, but not all work's equal. Anything can lend anything. If you do enough of it, enough activity, you'll equal busy. And if that's your outcome, then good for you. Go and be busy. But not all work's equal. The fact that you can be busy, or the fact that you can do something doesn't mean you should. You say that all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And so there's a difference between doing the invoices versus creating an invoicing system to make you more accurate and more efficient. There's a difference between pricing work and working on your pricing strategy to make you better margins and price more competitively. There's a difference between getting the work done versus working on a strategy to build out or change the dynamics of your ground crew or offload LVTs to your ground crew rather than you just doing it. So there's a huge difference between the two. Most tradies revert back to doing the doing rather than working on the things that create the change. And that's what we mean around prioritizing things that create improvement in your world.
Yeah, and I can hear I can hear the voices of clients past yelling at me going, "Yeah, but you don't understand. Shit happens during a day and I can't get around that. I've got to deal with whatever comes up." Now, we talked about this in episode 12 with the wit and win concept. So if you're yelling down your speakers or wherever you're listening to us, then have a good think about it, because wit and win is all about what's important today, what's important now, and really asking yourself that daily question: is this the highest value work, the most important thing I could be doing right now?
Because as you say, Dan, there's a big difference between urgent and important. And unfortunately, most business owners are caught in the urgency of doing the doing rather than the important things that matter.
That's right. But this is where that concept of being addicted or wearing busyness as a badge of honor comes in. Because if I can find urgent shit, and let's face it, urgent is always available, right? We could always deal with what's urgent. It's always urgent, a mile long. If my goal is to be busy, exhausted, and then wear that as a badge of honor, I'll go to the urgent every single time. Urgency junkies, absolutely. That's what people are. They're addicted to this because they validate. Everything comes from that idea of, have I been busy enough at the end of the day? Am I exhausted enough? And we sort of say this with almost a smile on our face, but have you ever sat and listened to a conversation between two people and it's almost like a battle to see who's more tired, more exhausted? And it's like, well, I was up at this time and I'm pretty tired. Oh yeah, geez, I'm even more tired. It's almost comical to see people play this out, and the amount of effort that gets wasted of people just going on this hamster wheel. So we're sort of half joking. We're not joking, but we're half sort of saying this with a grin on our face, because once you see it for what it is, it's almost comical.
And you got to remember, it's not your fault. Like you listening here today, it's not your fault, because this is the tradesman mentality of, the longer and harder I work, the more money I make. It saves me time and energy and money if I do it myself. And as a tradesman, you're wired to fix problems and you get paid by the hour. It's just that when you run a business, your value is not what you do in the hour. Your value is strategically to work on the business to move it forward with the priorities that matter. And it's running a business, and that mindset is a completely different mindset to being a tradesman. And until you make that switch in your mind, nothing's going to change and your hours are going to stay the same. Going back to the Jack story, nothing changed until Jack had the realization that being busier wasn't the answer. He had to shift his mindset, learn prioritizational skills, embrace the power of leverage, and that's when his business and life took off. And that's the shift that you've got to have listening to this episode. That's what's going to change your world.
Yeah, especially if and you talk about urgency and how that plays out, especially if you're someone that's in like reactive maintenance or something like this. It isn't your fault. You've been, your lifestyle, your world has come from your ability to respond to urgent matters. But you can't. I love to say to guys that are in that space when they wrestle with this all the time, and it's not a surprise for reasons we just talked about. But you can't operate your business the same way as what you do your business. You have to split the two. You can't operate on the same basis that urgency is good. You can make money out of dealing with urgency, but you can't run your business based on urgency. It will never work.
Yeah, we had that conversation recently with a client. He's like, Robert, I want to show my age, but I've run a reactive maintenance plumbing business and I've been doing this for 30 years. I got 30, or whatever the number was. I got 30 odd years of undoing of my mindset. It's like, yeah, mate, you've got to undo that mindset and learn prioritizational skills. And that's not a skill that you were taught as an apprentice. It wasn't a skill that you were taught as a tradesman because your boss said, be here, fix this, put your paperwork in and move to the next thing. You You were told what to do, where to be, and what to fix. And you never learn self-organization, self-management skills when you're in your trade. And that's the cornerstone to leadership, and it's the cornerstone to your success, is your ability to prioritize the things that matter in the time that you've got.
Yeah, and this is fix 3, right? This is the third thing we want to talk about today. Systematize, delegate, eliminate. I want you to break those down as slowly as you'd like to, but these are the tools and the tactics of someone that's made this shift. They learn these 3 things: systematize, delegate, and eliminate. Walk us through it.
Yeah, I actually want to start with delegate to begin with, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Because like we've spoken around in previous episodes, we always think position first, person second, processes third. And so I'm a big believer that as something comes across your plate, you've got to ask that question: am I the best person to be doing this? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, then you've got to work out who and when to delegate that to. And that could be delegating a low value task to your ground crew. It could be delegating a low value task to your office crew, or you're writing it on a board because you're creating a position in the future to delegate it to. And so sometimes you can delegate it to someone in your team already. Other times you've got to wait till the business can afford that position in person. But knowing what to delegate and when is the key to getting the low value shit off your plate to be able to work on the things that actually matter.
Yep. And that makes sense in terms of the definition of delegation. I think where we can put the little spin for this episode is for someone that is hooked on the busyness of the world, you're going to have to really make an effort to stop micromanaging, because you'll have that temptation. You'll delegate it. All of a sudden, you're not as busy as you thought you could have been, or hang on, I've just given up an opportunity to be busy. So I'm now going to jump in. I've got to jump on it. I'll be the one to step in rather than letting your own team step up. You're stepping in all the time. So being able to pick yourself up on that's really important.
Correct, because when you delegate it out, what you're saying is, I'm going to move it from my plate to someone else's plate, and I'm going to pay you 2 hours to get that done. So what you've done is you've bought back 2 hours. Now you've got to grab that 2 hours and reprioritize it into something else. You don't want to move it into someone else's plate and say, hey, I'm going to delegate it to you, and then, by the way, I'm going to watch you do it and make sure you do it right. That's micromanagement. But once you delegate it, you're actually buying back time to be able to focus on more high-value tasks.
Absolutely. Where are we going next?
Systemize the repetitive. And this is where you can use the people around you to either you create the systems, or you get or they systemize the repetitive tasks in your world. So the things that are done over and over again, you can over time create systems and processes to make you more efficient, more effective, and eliminate some of the repetitive nature of some activities within your business.
Yeah. I think for me, the one element I'd add to that probably is you're trying to make this permanent in terms of these systems you put in place. It doesn't mean you don't keep working on systems and improving them, but it's not a system for the sake of let's try it this way and let's try it that way, and you keep trying different things. If the system is in place, it's got to be run as part of your next step to delegation. You've got the people, then you optimize the process and you let it go from there. You're almost giving your team the benefit then of the systems that they can run to become more effective and less quote unquote busy in their days as well.
Correct, and this is how your hours then come down, because if you delegate things out, you set up the systems and processes to support your people in the positions, they become more fulfilled, they become more effective, less mistakes and repetitive nature of things happen. That's when your hours come down and your team become more effective. And that's where it becomes then a win-win-win for everyone, because delegation and systemization work hand in hand.
Beautiful. Which leaves us with one more.
Eliminate the useless. And this is your ability to really be honest with yourself and cut the shit out of your life that adds no value. And it's your ability to, like, we live in a world right now where everything's vying for your attention. They want you now. And in a world that's riddled with distraction, it's your ability to create an environment where you eliminate the noise and focus on the things that matter. And if you can do that, That's where you clear the path to be able to keep moving forward. It's hard though, isn't it?
It is. In our busy world, how much time do we spend / waste consuming information? Like there's so much information to be consumed. If you're hooked on being busy, I guarantee that you will have a stream of information. We might even call it a feed of information that you will get hooked into, that you will get sucked into, and you'll have stories in your mind. If you're listening to this, face the facts now and ask yourself, do I really need to know that? Does this need my attention right now? Am I just being busy by reading this? So it's not really it's not moving the needle where we started on this conversation. It's not really important right now, but shit, I'm an hour in and I've been busy, so I'm feeling pretty much okay. But if you really face the facts on it, could you eliminate that? And would your life be any worse off if you did eliminate that noise? If you didn't give it the attention that you've given it in the past? The only reason why you've given it is because it allows you to feel like you're being busy.
Yeah, I think connecting this back to fix number one about outcome focus, I reflect on my journey in business, and I feel like we've achieved some pretty epic things here at Pravar. And that hasn't because we've had a big wide path of trying to do all things for all people. We've been really clear on what we want, why we want it, who we serve, and what's the shortest path to be able to get there. What's the big thing? What's the outcome that we've got to focus on? And what's the strategic play that's going to move the needle to be able to get there? And how do we eliminate everything else? And so while most people have a wide path that they try to do all things, when you look at people who achieve big things in a short amount of time, it's not because they're special. It's because they've got a narrow path and they move fast. And they move fast because they focus on less. They hone their focus rather than trying to focus too wide, too broad. And I think that's what we mean by eliminate the useless is you eliminate all the noise and you narrow your focus so you can actually move ahead faster. And that's the trait of a highly successful person who's got the ability to eliminate the things that really don't matter in the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're grappling with this as a concept as we're talking about it, ask yourself, do you know how to say no? Because really, that's what we're talking about. If you're going to eliminate it, you're going to have to learn to say no. If you're good at saying no, I guarantee eliminating useless stuff probably comes like second nature to you. If you wrestle with this and this is a big problem for you, you'll probably turn around and go, I say yes to too many things. So the rubber meeting the road for me, and this one, Rob, is learning how to say no.
Correct. And some people don't like doing that. And that comes back to what you were talking about before is don't read this, don't watch that, don't hang out with those people if they add no value. Like it's knowing what to turn on and what to turn off in your life. And it's not about being a dick or being ruthless about it. It's self-awareness around knowing who you are, what's actually important, and then focusing on the things that actually help you get there in life and business and in life. And that means you've got to say no to some of the things that you were alluding to before. And you might upset a few people along the way, but hey, that's just part of the journey.
It really is. And we're unapologetic about that at Pravar. When we coach clients, we don't dick around. There's times where we probably come across as rude, but we're absolutely living, like you said, what we talk about, which is we know what the outcome is. We prioritize what's important, and we're looking for these pathways. Notice I didn't say shortcuts, but pathways through delegation, systemizing and eliminating the useless, because we know that that's what is getting in the way of people having the life, the business, the relationships that they really want.
What a great conversation.
Oh, I could keep going. I love it. It's so important because it shows up so many places. It really, really does. And it's one of those things I think is a generational thing as well. Like you think about back to Jack's story, his dad on the roof all the time, didn't stop, had his own business, great. But what was his relationship with time, that busyness, and what are you doing for your kids as a result of just proving that how exhausted you are? What do they miss out on? There's so much cost to being busy that people don't talk about because we've glorified things like hustle culture. I don't want to open another can, I'll leave it there, but it's something that I'm really passionate about trying to change out there as well.
And we are. And business living proof that our clients at Pravar are building their businesses and running, and either running it or on the way to running a true lifestyle business. And our definition of that is a $3 to $5 million business, 10 to 15% net profit, 45 hours a week or less, 4 to 6 weeks of leave per year. And that's a true definition of our lifestyle business at Pravar. And our clients are either there, beyond it, or working towards it. And it just shows that you don't have to keep working longer and harder and slaving your guts out to the point of exhaustion just to provide for your family for no return in the end of the day. That's a broken mindset. And if you've got that, man, it's time to change. Like, something has to change. And if you're ready to make that change, jump across to strategysession.com.au, fill out the form, book in a time, and let's make our time together matter so that we can help you work on the things that matter to take your business and life to the next level in less hours per week.
I love it.
The bottom line out of today's conversation is, if you're always busy but never feeling like you ever get ahead, you don't need more hours. You need to make better decisions. Being busy is not a flex in today's terms. Thanks for tuning in today. Hopefully you got some value out of it, and looking forward to coming back to you next week for another episode of The Trade Den.
See you on the next one.